Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 replay cast. I gotta say, I'm kind of fangirling right now. It's gonna be a Terran versus Terran on the map Acid Plant. And spawning down in the bottom right hand side of the map, it's Root SuperNova. And his opponent spawning up in the top left hand side of the map, it is Liquid TaeJa. So I generally try and avoid mirror matchups, but when it has two fantastic players, and I just have to cast it, you know. So TaeJa, for those of you that don't know, recently came back into the scene. I've been trying to cast as much of him as I could. He's been in a few of the tournaments that I've organized and whatnot, and he's starting to look really good on form again. And then his SuperNova has just been streaming at a pretty high level the whole time, so he's been very active. And so that's why I think this should be a pretty good match. I don't read Korean, so I don't know what they're talking about, but I mean, when you've got a match between these two, you definitely have to check it out. And so, I mean, I've cast Terran versus Terran in tournaments and stuff, but as far as a TvT on my channel goes, it's been a while since I've cast one, so I'm excited to get on into this. As far as the builds go, it is mirrored. There's none of that proxy stuff. Since the map is Acid Plant, proxies aren't quite as common, and we even see TaeJa check out for a proxy there, a little bit scared. So his SCV is making the rounds, seeing what's going on, making sure that everything's all right. But as far as everything goes, that is the case. These guys are just showing a lot of respect for each other, just macroing up. Now, if you were to look at this, you generally say that TaeJa, from a pro playing standpoint, would be the favorite, just because he is coming back to try and play in all these tournaments. But he hasn't been back as long as SuperNova has, and I mean, SuperNova definitely always puts up good games, so I'm excited to see how this one's gonna go. Now, as far as the builds go, we've got Reaper on the way out for SuperNova. He's got his factory a little bit quicker than that of TaeJa, whereas TaeJa, he's just got up his command center, following it up with a Marine. Now he has his own factory on the way. So pretty similar builds coming out of these guys, both of them going for one Reaper, whereas SuperNova going right into the reactor, while TaeJa got the Marine. So just very small differences you'll see in the Terran versus Terran matchup. But other than that, no, it's yeah, it's a pretty friendly TvT. Just both going for a command center here, nothing out of the ordinary. Both of the Reapers staying out on their side of the map, so a lot of respect between these guys. Now, SuperNova, he is floating this factory over onto his reactor here, so this could be for something like double Cyclone, or say Cyclone and a single Hellion. We'll just have to wait and see, and it is that Cyclone and a single Hellion coming out of him here. Doesn't quite have enough gas for double Cyclone yet, but SuperNova is a guy who plays a lot of mech, so we could maybe see something like that double Cyclone, or a lot more Cyclones coming out of him. But then again, before the Cyclone does get patched, this is on the old patch, I believe. So, well, and the fact that they're being built off a reactor definitely says so, that this is on the old patch. But, well, I guess current patch for now. But yeah, so these guys using Cyclones while they can. SuperNova, he is going to be producing a fair few more. Reaper for TaeJa comes on in, sees the single Cyclone, but I mean, yeah, nothing too telling just yet. Meanwhile, TaeJa, he's getting up a starport, getting up a bunker, which is very important when you are playing bio, or, well, when you're making a lot of bio units like Marines, because versus just Cyclones rolling across the map, you gotta have something, and a bunker can help out with that. Whereas TaeJa, he's just building up his own Cyclones, gonna start up a Medivac, and there it is. So, I mean, likely going to pick up his two Cyclones and go for a drop, whereas SuperNova is just building up a pretty darn heavy Cyclone count and may move across the map to attack. So we'll see how these two guys are going to line up. SuperNova is also starting his third command center. Now that could be in trouble to a potential drop or something like that. Looks like SuperNova may be trying to catch the Reaper of TaeJa here. However, TaeJa's Cyclones come on in and shoot those guys away, but I mean, if you guys can do math, it looks like SuperNova has a few more Cyclones, so he may be able to get in here and get on top of TaeJa right now, but TaeJa is going to fall back to this bunker, and that should really keep SuperNova back. Bunkers making all the difference in the world. But look at this SuperNova. He actually sees this Medivac, so he's going to be able to lock onto that and try and shut down this drop of TaeJa. TaeJa's now just making a beeline towards SuperNova's base. Another Cyclone pops out, though, to lock onto this. This drop's going to be in trouble. TaeJa has no choice but to unload here. However, this Medivac could still actually die. It's going to be close, but no, it does get saved. And look at this TaeJa. He tries to lift up. He's so worried about dying here. And just a single Marine makes it into the main base, but it may actually be enough to delay the CC here. Actually kills off the SCV. Marine gets picked off there, and actually the rest of the Marines got cleaned up by these Cyclones for SuperNova, so that didn't go too bad for the blue Terran player right now. He's going to repair up all of his own Cyclones, so just making a lot of Cyclones for now, getting up into his third base. If Cyclones are good at one thing, it's definitely playing safe in TvT, because really the only way that a Terran can deal with something like mass Cyclones definitively, other than by building tons of their own, is to wait until they have something like Stim Pack, and that takes a long time. That's why we see SuperNova just happily getting up his third base already, just turning that into an orbital, as those Cyclones are very safe. But he may be pushing it here a little bit. He's coming in with the Cyclones, actually just right clicks on that bunker there, focuses it down, now going to focus down that auto turret, and actually just locks onto the Raven. So SuperNova taking a pretty good trade right now with all of his Cyclones just coming on in. TaeJa was not quite ready for this, and he could be losing a few SCVs. Another Raven comes on in, but TaeJa really only has one Cyclone. He's getting up a tank now, which should in theory end this push, but SuperNova is getting some good damage done right now. His Cyclones pick off the other Raven, which is no cheap loss there over that tank, picking off two of the Cyclones, so at least getting a bit of something for that. But a nice attack there for SuperNova. He's now moving over to secure his third base. He's got his +1 on the way, making a few more Cyclones in order to get these up, in order to just be safe. Cyclones are very good at being safe as a Terran player, also doing a bit of aggression. SuperNova is really testing it right now. And oh my gosh, hold on guys, I'm sorry for my observing there, having to rewind, but SuperNova actually came in again once he had another Cyclone or two. Let's just get back to this. And I believe he actually scanned the high ground if we look at this. Yes, he did. Look at this. He uses his Cyclones, and then he's just going to have the three of them here. And he's going to scan the high ground. I missed this, but this is pretty important. Look at this. He comes on in, he scans the high ground, and picks off the tank. It costs him a Cyclone, but a Cyclone for a tank is a pretty good trade for a meching Terran, keeping that count of TaeJa down. Also maybe going to get an SCV or two, but no. Very good play there for SuperNova. And he's now just macroing up here. He's getting up into his 3 factory. Gonna land his starport on a reactor. Likely make Vikings in order to shut down the air control. But TaeJa, though, he does have up his own third base. So while it's not a terrible position, it's not a terrible position. It's an alright position. It's a slightly below room temperature position for TaeJa right now. But he is down on workers a little bit, and SuperNova is getting up to his third base. And the main thing for TvT is you want to shut down you have 2 choices when dealing with a meching Terran, and I say this every TvT I cast that's like this. You either have to kill the meching Terran before they really reach such a high tank and Viking count, or you need to play your own macro game and get up a lot of, say, your own command centers and go into mass air yourself, and then eventually play a late game versus the Terran. Now, SuperNova's coming on in here. TaeJa's tank shut down those Hellions, but we'll see what TaeJa's going to do. The fact that he's got 1-1 on the way combat shield and making a ton of bio really says that he's probably going to be playing just that try and kill the meching Terran style. And, I mean, SuperNova is starting to build up this tank count and securing more, just getting up more and more units, building up his Viking count, which will really help shut this down. But, I mean, TaeJa will move out on the map, start trying to drop and whatnot. SuperNova has already gotten up his 4th base, though, so pretty greedy, but that's what he's opted to do with the lead he established himself in the early game. Look at this. He actually, oh my god, guys, I need to work on my observing, but SuperNova comes in, and I believe he delayed combat shield there, or some sort of upgrade. It might have been concussive shell, but he got an add-on there, so not as severe as I thought it was. But look at this SuperNova. We're actually, guys, my observing, I do need to work on it a little bit, but things like this are important. Look at this. He just picked off a few add-ons there and just gets another one, gets on out of there, and so that's just fantastic. The nice thing about doing a replay cast, though, is you can go back and look at this. SuperNova, he actually just unloads, picks off a tank, and it looks like he's going to get out with both of these Medivacs. He's going to have boost in a second, or no, I spoke too soon. There goes down one of them. That boost taking a while to get off cooldown, but one of them gets out, but still trading with a tank, shutting down some add-ons, just pulling TaeJa back, most importantly, buying himself some time. I'd like to see a sensor tower or two go up for SuperNova because information is very important, but he's just already really beginning to solidify right now. He's getting up his 5th factory here, and just once he has production off that, TaeJa is going to have to break him very quickly because this is looking like a very good game for SuperNova right now. 2-2 is on the way for TaeJa right now, so he's going to be heading into a slight upgrade lead. Whereas SuperNova hasn't started his. But look at this, TaeJa, he comes on in, however he sees this as a planetary now, and this much bio can definitely not make a planetary. A nice move picking off the gas geyser. Shutting down a meching Terran's gas income is very important to do, but now SuperNova positioning tanks by this planetary, so not likely going to be able to get too much done dancing around that. I mean, TaeJa does have to look for any angle he can get in this game right now, because time is not on his side. Time is rarely on the Bio-Terran side in a mech versus Bio-TvT. He does catch these Cyclones, which is very important. Very nicely done there for or catches the Hellions, pardon me. So that's a nice pick off there. And look at that. He notices that those weren't slowed, so he does have to restart that concussive shell, which I believe was denied earlier. Now TaeJa, he's coming on in. He's going to get this gas geyser and maybe some turrets here, or at least the turrets. SuperNova's tank not quite in position. Really got to respect this, but TaeJa, he's just dancing around trying to pull his opponent apart right now. SuperNova, though, I mean, as long as he keeps the core of his bases alive, he should be in a very good spot. Also going for some Hellbats right now. This Marauder's got his work cut out for him, as SuperNova continuously trying to harass. Hellion run-bys are a very effective harass tool for meching Terrans. Okay, now build-wise, SuperNova is finally getting into his armor. I mean, as far as the overall build, it's just how they're playing. The build is not too important at this point, but he is getting his armor researching. He hasn't started his extra attack just yet, but he's investing in a lot of missile turrets, though, if we look at this. And he's at 89 workers. SuperNova's building a very scary army. He's just really trying to solidify, and he may not even give TaeJa the time of day. SuperNova's going to be moving out, maybe knowing that, I mean, it's very tough for a Bio-Terran to stop such a strong mech army that has air control. It just inches forward and can squeeze the life out of you. Tanks rolling forward for TaeJa, eating a shot. Actually, the tank dies there. So SuperNova is really trying to push it in. There's a lot of tanks for TaeJa, though, and he has to respect that. If we look at what TaeJa's building right now, he's making Ravens, making Vikings, now planning on transitioning into his own air here. Eating a few tank shots, but it looks like TaeJa's doing a good enough job of pushing SuperNova back for now. But he is really planning on dealing with this by getting into his own air tech. SuperNova dropping a Cyclone on here actually picks off one of the tanks there. Probably a worthwhile trade for him. Meanwhile, TaeJa just trying to get around this. Maybe going to go for a surround. I mean, this is so many tanks. You really have to respect this as TaeJa. He's actually going to try and catch some reinforcements right now, which would be a nice pick off. This bio is relatively weak, so it's got to be careful. And it may actually be stranded, but TaeJa still, I believe he picked off a tank there, picked off a Hellion or two. And he has held on, which is very important for him, getting up a lot of CCs. He's really accepting that this game has to go late. TaeJa's starting 3 command centers and just making a lot of air units, and that's how you beat a mech Terran. When the ground army is too strong for you to deal with just with bio, you have to beat it in the air, and SuperNova really recognizes this. Okay, now SuperNova, I mean, he's still, or TaeJa recognizes this. SuperNova's looking to push on in, but I mean, TaeJa's starting to build up a Raven count. SuperNova really wants to push in right now. He's actually going to engage this air army. Going to be trading out with the Ravens. Looks like his Vikings are going to have to retreat, though. But SuperNova still has the superior count. And most importantly for him, he has realized that TaeJa is starting to challenge his air count. So he's going to have to start building his own. But does SuperNova just have 1 starport? Okay, no, pardon me. He's got 3. So he should be able to make a good number of air units once again. But he's already on a 5th base right now, whereas TaeJa hasn't secured his. So ahead in bases right now. This is looking pretty good for SuperNova. Getting up just a lot of tanks, a lot of Vikings. It's a very good composition in TvT. It looks like TaeJa's actually trying to get on in here. He's taking a fight. He's coming on in right now. I mean, he's stimming forward into these tanks. He's eating a lot of shots, but I mean, TaeJa may actually have managed to win this fight right now, and he actually picks off the air army of SuperNova too. I wasn't quite ready for that, but that was a fantastic fight there for TaeJa, and suddenly SuperNova's army has really been weakened, and TaeJa's air production is more than that of SuperNova. Oh, that bio army is walking forward into a few tank shots. Got to be very careful about that. But a very nice move there for TaeJa, just getting on top of that army. I didn't honestly see that coming, sort of caught me off guard. And definitely SuperNova. Maybe SuperNova was being a bit too aggressive right there, as now his army has been cleared and TaeJa's starting to choke him out right now. He's really just seizing the day here, and his Vikings are sharking around. And look at this, no Thor or anything on the ground to shut this down. So SuperNova's air may just be out snowballed right now. The start of the game was looking pretty good for him, but he's really got to be wary of this. I mean, he's got to repair this base to keep it alive. He's going to want to challenge the air army of TaeJa. Upgrade-wise, SuperNova, I mean, it's actually, he's going to have +3 armor, but TaeJa's getting into +2 ship weapons, so, and also, yeah, so I mean, SuperNova may have a slight upgrade, but it looks like he will be losing this base anyway, as he hasn't been able to challenge the air dominance. Right now, Viking count still ahead for TaeJa, which is very important. SuperNova's going for some counter harassment right now. Hellion's working away on a lot of these SCVs. Now, we'll see. I mean, that base does go down for SuperNova. He's already thinking of securing yet another one. Okay. And I mean, TaeJa, he has secured his 5th base. These players are scanning all over, wanting all the information that they can get. Viking count and Raven count just starting to build up. It's really becoming a battle of the air right now. SuperNova going for another run by. Actually going to delay this CC, a very important move. May actually try and kill it. Those Hellbats with their servos quickly transform, but TaeJa also denying the base of SuperNova. SCV is going to try and engage these Marines, and they do win. But that's pretty comical there, as now TaeJa, he's still sharking about. SuperNova being on 4 bases at the 15-minute mark is not ideal. He's really starting to mine out, so you gotta secure another base. Losing that 5th base was so critical for him right now. TaeJa can't really kill off that base until he brings over his Vikings, as not too many Marines in this army, just a lot of Marauders, really relying on those Vikings for the anti-air, but that command center will go down. Hellions do come in here, kill off a fair few at TaeJa's SCVs. I mean, SuperNova, he's got such a high worker count. He's actually maybe got a few too many at this point, because, I mean, he doesn't have that many mineral patches to mine off. He's got to secure another base. But otherwise, these workers are useless for now. SuperNova, TaeJa, both scanning all over. The sound of scans. Both players close to maxed out right now. TaeJa got the higher army supply. SuperNova is doing fantastic work with his Hellion run-bys, though. Picking off more and more SCVs. These Hellbats are going to transform. This Marauder is going to try and shut this down. But SuperNova getting some good economic damage done to his opponent. Not quite chasing down this SCVs with that run-by, but really keeping TaeJa busy. His worker count is falling, but I mean, TaeJa, he is just really replacing this mainly with army. He's fine being around 50 SCVs. He's just making a massive army. Just getting into a ton of Ravens, just gonna have a very high Viking count. SuperNova does have 20 Vikings, though. I mean, TaeJa's really relying on these Ravens. Maybe trying out the mass Raven. I mean, it's not too common in TvT to have an absurd amount of Ravens, but here comes in the engagement. TaeJa throwing down a lot of anti-armor missiles, but SuperNova has a few of his own, and it looks like SuperNova may have the higher Viking count right now. He has managed to build this up. Auto turret on the ground helping out. It's actually going to be a close fight right now. A lot of the Ravens go down for TaeJa, but it looks like SuperNova's air army may win out with this. Just so close this fight. But I think SuperNova's air army did manage to do it, and as a result, he shuts down that army of TaeJa. But SuperNova, he needs to be floating over a base, like, immediately. Otherwise, eventually, he will run out of steam, and TaeJa will replenish faster. But it looks like a fight's going down right now. The Hellbats are buffering for SuperNova right now. TaeJa's bio engaging into them, but it looks like it is melting. And suddenly, TaeJa could be in trouble as SuperNova clears his ground army. He's cleared his air army, and TaeJa is now down on supply. While he's got more mining bases, the harassment of SuperNova has really cut into his remax for now. And SuperNova, he can now start flying over a base. Secure that, and he's actually going to do that just right away. I mean, he's got 86 workers, but his income is not that high. He definitely needs to start transferring SCVs. Look at that, 22 out of 8, 20 out of 8. His natural 14 out of 6, and his main base, nothing mining there. So getting that base up for SuperNova is so important. But look at this, he's coming on in, and suddenly TaeJa's the one who's going to be getting choked out now, as his command center has to lift off. He's flying another one to the right. Even if he can just drop a few mules there, it'll help, but his supply has drastically dropped, and it seems that SuperNova may have won out. TaeJa maybe just committing to too many Ravens there instead of Vikings. Anti-armor missile not dealing too much damage. Alright, upgrade-wise as well, I mean, SuperNova is going to have a very strong ground army, hitting 3-3 for that, also getting his ship upgrades, so going to be having the better upgrades right now. denying mining at just one of the last few patches for TaeJa as well. I mean, TaeJa has secured the space to the right, but he's not mining there just yet. And SuperNova's army, he's maxed out. It's so scary. He's got a fantastic income now that he's resecured the space. Well, a much better income. TaeJa's not in the best spot right now. He's got to deal with this army somehow, and really he just has to try and deal with this. SuperNova, though, picks off a command center. Just can't really afford to be losing those as TaeJa at this point. Viking count right now, it's 9 to 19, which is never good for TaeJa. He's got the Raven count, and he's even got a Liberator in here. I mean, that Liberator splash can help out, but is it going to be enough for TaeJa? He's really just got to muster everything he can, and that's the plan. I mean, TaeJa didn't have any Liberators in the last fight, but Liberators really benefit from anti-armor missiles, but SuperNova's just got so many Vikings. He's even got Thors in with us. And it's going to be very tough. Liberator even coming on in right now for SuperNova, just going to shut down these tanks, and he may just be moving forward right now, and that's what he's doing. He's inching in. An anti-armor missile actually connects on the majority of TaeJa's army right now, so TaeJa has to pull back. And SuperNova is just closing on in. TaeJa is mining at this base on the right, but whether he's going to be able to deal with this, the main fight going down right now is TaeJa comes on in. Anti-armor missiles being dumped on both sides, but it looks like SuperNova's actually just going to have too much. And GG, Root SuperNova manages to bring down TaeJa in that TvT. And I guess that game, that's really just SuperNova's excellent, like just his mech expertise showing. It was a little dicey there for a minute, but his Hellion harassment really brought him back into it. It really cut into TaeJa's remax. If you're using Bio versus a mech Terran, you need a much better economy, and SuperNova didn't let TaeJa get to that. And this game actually really did come down to one fight, more or less. It was earlier on. It was all those Ravens versus the Vikings. SuperNova, when he did rebuild that air army, I'm actually going to cut back to that before that fight. All right, so here we are. And this is actually, I cut just right to it, but look at this fight going down. I mean, anti-armor missiles, so many going down for TaeJa. He drops an auto turret or two, but I mean, if all those Ravens were Vikings, like, he'd have had a lot more Vikings for sure. And guys, okay, you hear it officially. LaughNgamez. I mean, I play Terran and I play Protoss. I 13-12 as Zerg, so I play a bit of every race. But as far as Terran goes, I am against the Raven anti-armor missile nerf. We don't see people maxing it right now. And mass anti-armor missile, it's not an issue at the moment. And I don't think Blizzard should go through with the nerf. I mean, I know a lot of StarCraft 2 content creators just ignore talking about balance, and I generally try and keep my nose down since I've been putting out more content, but I don't think many people can argue with this. I mean, this is a good example, and I'd never talk about it, but after watching this fight, I mean, clearly the Ravens there was a lot more anti-armor missiles for TaeJa, but only 15 damage is not enough when he had something like 10 Ravens. So you hear it first. Definitely, I mean, the 30, they were OP. The 15 that they're at right now, I don't think they need to go down to 0. But yeah, anyway, there's that small tangent, that small rant. But thanks for watching, guys. If you do enjoy the content, feel free to leave a like, as I'm putting out a lot more content. And really thanks to everyone for the support on the channel lately. And also, if you are new and you do enjoy the content and you didn't click off that video when I started talking about balance, feel free to leave a subscription, as I'm definitely putting out a lot more content. I shall see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.